So next, you saw the apps that are being built on App Inventor, and so now we're inviting the senior software lead at App Inventor team, Evan Patton. Sorry, I completely blanked out on your name. To talk more and give sort of a demo of what's new with App Inventor. Thank you.
Alrighty, so thank you everyone. Good morning. For those of you who are veterans of previous App Inventor Summits, you'll know that every summit we try to give a preview of what we've been working on for the last year. And for all of those who are new to this AI and Education Summit, welcome. So today I'm just move this mic a little bit. Today I am going to be talking about some of the new stuff we have coming forth. But first, let's talk about what has been happening in App Inventor. So this year, so far, we've had 22 million users of all time using App Inventor. So we just passed 20 million in October, and we've added 2 million more in the last few months. And you can see we have the top 5 countries here: United States, Taiwan, Mexico, India, and Spain, kind of rounding out the top 5. But in the United States and Taiwan, we're seeing over 1 million people using App Inventor this past year. We also had an amazing breakthrough earlier this year: 100 million projects that people have made with App Inventor. And we've seen just a couple of those just now. You'll see more later tonight. But really thinking about trying to inspire people to build something interesting, something that can make a difference to their friends and family. So thank you all who have built apps with App Inventor for helping us get to this goal. We have a whole bunch of new features that we've rolled out or are coming out soon. The first I want to talk about are the data science components. So a couple of things we've added. We've added a new anomaly detection component. So if you've played around with our charts feature and you've done some data collection with charts, you can, for example, detect when data points are out of sort of a standard Gaussian distribution. You can see an example of that here on the right. We've added support for linear regression so that if you have a data set, you can predict potential data points. Or for example, in this screenshot here, I'm getting the slope from my X and Y values. And then just recently, we added a trend line component, which actually can visualize a couple different trends. So if you're familiar with using a tool like Microsoft Excel, you know that given a data set, you can try to plot different trends. So in addition to a linear trend, you can do quadratic, exponential, and logarithmic trend prediction. And this is all in the Android version right now, and it will be coming out in the iOS version a little bit later this year. Our education team, Selim and Robert, have also put together a number of teacher modules for materials you can use in the classroom. They will be giving workshops on this on Friday afternoon. So I definitely, if you're a teacher, I would encourage you to stop by and take a look at that. But I think we're mainly focusing on the data science side, but there's also an IoT module as well. I'll be showing a little bit of that this afternoon in our demo room. Now, Robert and Prerna, where are you? Perfect. They have an announcement. There you are. Maybe the big red button.
Thanks, Evan. This is Prerna Ravi, and I'm Robert Parks. I'm a curriculum writer for App Inventor, and Prerna is a PhD candidate and a researcher. And we are so excited because by a happy accident, the tools competition that we just won coincides with this AI and Education Summit. So they just announced this morning at 10 a.m. that out of 2,000 proposals, App Inventor and Raise won a grant and access to the tools competition, tremendous network of researchers and additional funding perhaps in the future. And it's all based on our data science work. So. So what it is basically what Evan was just talking about, a tremendous amount of work for years on the dev side and work with the help of Selim on the education side as well. So we've got some mobile sensing, thinking about ways that children can use mobile systems to collect data in their communities or survey data or sensor data and also clean it, visualize it, and analyze it, the whole data spectrum, as a way of understanding where data comes from, problems that may arise from it, and thinking about how it is a pipeline to AI. So yeah, the learning engineering competition they're going to be leveraging digital technology. We're going to be developing new components with some of this support. And we're also going to be analyzing kind of the data about how children use these tools to say, hey, where are the roadblocks, where are the pain points, and how could we improve them? Prerna.
Hi, everyone. So just a little bit more about our toolkit and curriculum. So one of the things that we have done is we have packaged this toolkit with a bunch of professional development resources and both teacher-facing and student-facing curricula. The curriculum is available on the Day of AI website, which was for 2024, which went out earlier this year. We're also piloting this curriculum with the MIT Future Makers program, which is a 6-week program that brings in underrepresented students from across the country. And one of the things that we are really emphasizing through this curriculum is this aspect of computational action. So we want students to be collecting their own data, making connections to local community problems, building a little bit on what Rachel spoke about earlier as well. And particularly, we are also interested in making sure that this is equitable. So we're deploying this particularly on mobile phones. We want students to be collecting data with microbit sensors and mobile phones, which is more widely available than some of the other technological devices that are out there. And in particular, one of the things that we are really excited about in this upcoming year that we would love to hear from you on as well is we want to pilot this data science curriculum in non-STEM classrooms as well. We don't want this to be a curriculum that's just meant for STEM, math, or computing classrooms. We are really interested in seeing how this can fit into the current pedagogical practices in history classrooms, English classrooms, and sports. So we are interested in making this an interdisciplinary package and toolkit. So if you're interested at all in data science, and if you're an educator who's currently looking at how you can sort of integrate it into your classroom, please do come and talk to us. We're going to be talking a little bit more on this tomorrow in the morning, and we're also going to be doing the workshop in the afternoon that Evan just spoke about. So thank you.
I just want to thank the proposal team of Rachel Walker, who you met a little earlier, David, Kim, Prerna, and myself. Well, yeah.
All right, seconded. Okay, so thank you for that. The next thing I want to talk about is some of our AI components that we have in App Inventor. Some of you may have already tried these before, but everyone here, if you've used App Inventor, you may have seen we have a chatbot component that integrates with OpenAI. We now are adding support for multimodal inputs. So there's a new Converse with Image bot. We'll be demoing that this afternoon as well, where you can take an image, say with your phone's camera, and then you can ask, for example, describe this image in one sentence, and then it'll give you a description back. We are also adding support for other providers. So we've added support for Google Gemini, and we added support via AWS Bedrock to Anthropic Claude, and we'll also be eventually opening up Llama 3 and Titan support, thanks to our friends at AWS. The other thing we're working on actively, so this is not yet in the iOS version, but we have folks working on it at the moment. We are taking all of our AI extensions that you may have used on the Android version and integrating them directly into the iOS version. So we just had our speaker speak about using the personal image classifier to classify images of tongues and diseases. There's a personal audio classifier. And if you've used Teachable Machine, these are effectively the same exact framework for training models, but it can work entirely in the browser. You don't need to have a Google account or anything like that. And then the model is embedded directly into the application, so you can use it offline. The next thing we have is our Teachable Machine support. We released this last year for Android. That will be integrated into the iOS version as well. And then we saw from Parker's wonderful presentation, things like PoseNet and FaceMesh as models that could be used in the Race Playground. We have those in the Android version, and we will be bringing those to iOS as well pretty shortly. And we have a number of modules already on our website for things like dancing with AI or how to do Snapchat filters using those modules. Now I'd like to bring up Susan Lane, one of our development team members, who's going to talk about our efforts on building a new App Inventor user interface.
So this is Neo, which is our new user interface in open beta. You can, I can show you in the next slide, but you can all take a look at this by opening the settings menu, drop-down menu at the top of App Inventor, and selecting UI settings. And so we can see here, this is how you will select the new user interface. What you don't see as much here is that this is the product of close to 3 years of work, not only to provide a new user interface, but to give App Inventor the capability of building new user interfaces straightforwardly. I'm in the process of putting together a tutorial. We're open source. In theory, anybody can build their own style, and hopefully we can offer more styles in the future. So thank you very much.
I would also like to take a moment to thank the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charity Trust, because a lot of their support in the last couple of years has gone to this effort of building a new user interface and helping elevate App Inventor to a platform that is continuing to look fresh and be something that people want to engage with. So we're very excited about that, and we thank you for your support. Now, focusing on iOS, because App Inventor was started originally at Google, Android was the very first platform that it targeted, and it took us a while to get to the iOS level, but we are here, and we have been having many people use it. About 20% of our users now are using App Inventor on iOS, so we're very excited about that, and I saw yesterday in the workshops people using it right on their iPhones, which was fantastic. The first thing is that we are going to be adding Bluetooth Low Energy support to the iOS version. This is already up in test flight. So if you're interested in helping us beta test this functionality, please come see me afterwards and I can help you get set up with that. We have also added in the test flight version support for microbit, and we'll be demoing that later this afternoon. We have a very simple game you can play against your friends with the microbit, and it all works with both Android and iOS now. And one thing that we often hear about is, how can I get my app on iOS? I don't just want to use the App Inventor Companion, but I want to have it running on my phone. So we are going to be, later this year, introducing beta support. There's already a test server for this, but we're hoping to get it out to more people in the future, where you can both publish an app and install it on your phone. And if you'd like to actually see that, you can come by. This is a screenshot from my actual iPhone of my little Hello Purr icon. I had to blow it up so you could all see it, because you're not going to be able to see that in the back. But you can come and try out Hello Purr on iOS. And then, of course, we've got some support for App Store publishing. And we've had a couple of our power users on the forum already go ahead and publish their apps to the App Store. So we're really excited to be able to see that people are taking their apps from App Inventor and publishing them for iOS. And then the last thing I just want to briefly share with you is a research project we call Aptly. You'll get to see this as well, both today and tomorrow, but we've got a video here that really, I think it will explain it better than I will. So let's see. Hold on, maybe we don't have audio yet. Well, I have no control from you. All right. Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you so much.
I am so ready for lunch right now.
Oh, me too. I'm starving. Let's see what we have in here. Ugh, look at this moldy cheese. We need a better way to manage our fridge so we don't waste food like this again.
Yeah, that's gross. We should make an app to help us out. We can make an app just by describing it in plain language to a computer.
Really? Can you show me how?
Of course, but first, get rid of that.
Yes.
This is MIT App Inventor, a drag-and-drop blocks-based programming platform that lets users create mobile applications. We're making a new AI integration that allows users to create apps from natural language descriptions.
Make an app to help us keep track of the items in our fridge.
Now, Apply is automatically creating the app for us.
Oh, cool. It created the user interface and code blocks for us.
Yeah, let's try it out.
Now we can add items like this. And we can remove items like this when we consume an item. This will help us easily see what's in our fridge without having to rummage through the entire thing.
This is great. I think it would be really cool if the app could also give us recipe suggestions based off the food items we have in our fridge.
That's great. That would really help us make sure we're using all of our food before it expires.
Yeah, exactly. Make it so that when I click a button, the app will recommend a recipe given the ingredients in our fridge. Okay, let's see what we can make for lunch. Oh, cool. It recommended we make a peanut butter banana smoothie. That sounds delicious.
That sounds really good.
These smoothies are delicious.
And that's how you can use Apply to create and customize MIT App Inventor apps to solve real-world problems.
Cheers.
Yeah, so that was Ashley, who was a master's student who worked on the editing capability of Aptly, and Ariana, who's one of our fabulous UROps. And so we've had a number of people work on that over the years, and we're very excited to show that to you this afternoon. And so we will have a demo room, Salon 6. You can see all of these features, plus I know David's robotic stuff from yesterday was also very popular. So if you didn't get a chance to see that, we'd love to have you come by and try out all of the new features for App Inventor. Thank you. And I would like to invite the App Inventor team up, and we'll do a quick panel discussion. So start getting your questions ready. And I think we will have microphones to pass around for questions.
All right, so first off, how about a big hand for the App Inventor team here? You've just seen the stuff that they've been working on, which I hope you're excited about. And just quickly, you've met some of these people, earlier during the summit, but if we could just quickly have everyone give their name and what they do. We might have some time later for some more deep dives into their experience, but let's just get quick introductions. David?
Hi, I'm David Kim. I'm a software engineer in the MIT App Inventor team.
Hi, everyone. You all just heard from me, but I'm Patton, and I'm the lead software engineer for App Inventor.
Hi, I'm Jeff Schiller. I'm the DevOps and Wizard guy. When App Inventor doesn't work, it belongs to me.
Hal Abelson, I already introduced myself, Chief Zookeeper for App Inventor.
Hello, I'm Susan Lane. I'm also a developer for App Inventor, most recently working on the user interface.
I'm Robert, curriculum writer.
Selim Tezel at Team Lead.
Great, thanks. And I'm Mark Friedman. And I think I was selected to moderate this panel because I have the distinction and maybe the honor of being the first App Inventor engineer and tech lead when the project started at Google back in September 2008. So we've been around a while, and I have kind of a long view of what has happened with App Inventor over the years. So I'll try and have that perspective when I'm asking questions. Also, you and the MIT team up here can all blame me for all of the mistakes and errors that they've had to remedy once MIT took over from Google. Anyway, let me first ask you guys a question. How many of you in the audience are current or past users of App Inventor? Raise your hands. That's great. And how many of you are interested in possibly using it in the future? Woo! All right. So I'm going to ask my first question, and whoever wants to answer it, we can have more than one person. App Inventor has a lot of features and capabilities. Oh, actually, I forget. I want to first ask for questions from the audience, because your questions are actually way more interesting and important than my questions. So is there anyone who would like to, any questions from the audience about App Inventor? Past, future, present? Okay, we'll try again later. If you have one, let us know. So App Inventor has a lot of features and capabilities that users may not be aware of. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of components, capabilities. What is sort of your personal favorite for the one that you think people are not as aware of as they should be, or that they maybe use in a way that is, unexpected or maybe not as efficient as they could? Anyone want to talk about that?
So this one's not specifically a component, but it is a feature of the user interface. There's a checkbox at the top of App Inventor that says, show hidden components in browser. And this is one of the most misunderstood options that I know of that we have, which is you check that box and you have any components that have been set to property visible equals false. This is a way to see them. And this is one of our recommended methods for avoiding using large numbers of screens, is to create pieces of the user interface that appear and disappear based on other things that are happening in the app. And the way to facilitate doing that kind of thing and making components invisible when you create them, this makes it easier to see them again so that you can work with them.
Can I take leave to do two? Okay. And I'm going to be biased, and they're both things I implemented. So the first one is in the drop-down menu in the blocks editor, there's an option you'll see when you right-click on any block that says download as PNG. And one of the really cool things about the PNG file format is it's basically a sequence of chunks, and you can define your own chunks. So one of the chunks we put into the PNG file is the code that block represents. And so you can download that PNG file, you can put it up on something like GitHub Pages, and then you can just drag and drop it from a browser window into your App Inventor workspace to make a copy of it. And so, for example, on our community site, if you haven't seen it, people will post pictures of these blocks. And then if you see something that you like, or somebody solves something in a really interesting way, you can just drag and drop it from our community into your App Inventor workspace, and poof, you'll get the blocks right there. So you don't have to try to re-implement any details. And so it's a great way to do code sharing. So that's one. The second one is around the any component feature. So if you've played around with App Inventor for a while and you've built really sophisticated applications, you've probably come across any component. And we have a way to transform the blocks from sort of a specific implementation around a specific, say, button to apply to every button in your project. And so I know Selim had done this wonderful little tutorial with a snow globe, right? So he, created 20 or 30 image sprites or balls or whatever, and you don't want to have to code 30 copies of your handler. So you can use the any component thing, but you could code one, and then you can say, transform this so that it works for every image sprite. And so that's a really fantastic way for people to learn about how you can do code reuse through these abstractions so that you don't have to repeat yourself over and over and over again.
Anyone else? Selim?
One of the least well-known features, I think, is the blocks toolkit. So when you have beginners to the App Inventor environment, suddenly you have all these components. I don't know what's the total number now, at least 30, 40, 50 of them, and it could be overwhelming. But when you start a new project, the default is everything. You could select the beginner option, and suddenly you have all the things you need only for like elementary tutorials. Then you could have intermediate with more features, and then expert is the default with everything. So this is one of the least well-known, I think, and very useful ones that Susan implemented. Thank you.
Jeff?
Okay, good, this is on. So another thing I suspect people don't appreciate, and this of course is one of the things that I live every day, is that when you use App Inventor and you say connect to the companion and it puts up that QR code, there's a tremendous amount of stuff that happens in the background to make that work. And that has to work no matter where in the world you are, no matter how close or far you are from MIT. And the other thing I think people may not appreciate is the size of our infrastructure, which is to say it's tiny. You know, when you use Google Docs or something like that, you're dealing with a multi-billion-dollar company that can deploy thousands of machines. We don't have those kinds of resources. We have to make it work with a very, very minimal number of resources. And that's actually a lot of work on our part to make that happen.
Anyone? Okay. So obviously we're all very excited that App Inventor has integrated AI so deeply into so many parts of it, whether it's components or apply or other blocks. Are there any other technologies sort of other than AI that you can see on the horizon that might affect App Inventor or its users, and which App Inventor might need to, sort of incorporate? I mean, I'm thinking, for example, I don't know, quantum computing might be coming soon. Is that something that App Inventor cares about? Are there any other technologies like that, or that you can see?
So yesterday I did a demo about the robots, and the idea comes from, so recently robots has always been a big thing, but after all these developments of machine learning, I came up with the thought that if you embed these machine learning models into robots, robots can do much more interesting stuff. So that's first reason I thought that robots gonna be a big thing. The second thing is I've been a fan of Boston Dynamics, and I like their robots. And I had the feeling that in the same sense how computers back in the day were only used by technical elites, but nowadays everybody has their own laptop and their own cell phone in their pocket. I had the feeling that in the future, maybe 20 years, everybody's gonna have their own robot, their own R2-D2 with them right now. So 20 years later, if we do the same summit, everybody will have their own small BB-8 running around with them. So that gave me the thought that it's important for, just as Hal thought the idea that people should be active programmers of their own mobile phone, not just consumers of it, I had the same idea that people should be active programmers of robots and not just a consumer of it. And that's why I thought that it's important for us to start building a framework, educational framework of teaching people how to program their own robot. And the robot dog, Riley, Roxy, if anyone came to saw it, is my initial thought of where we can start creating that framework.
I also think augmented reality is another area where we've dabbled a little bit as a team, but there hasn't really been a ton of effort really to build a formal curriculum around that. But we're certainly, you see investment from companies like Meta, where they are really putting money into trying to figure out how to make technologies that are more interactive, both from the virtual screen, but in the physical environment as well. And I think that coincides really nicely with a lot of the IoT work we've been doing, because you can think of different ways of presenting the information if you use an augmented reality presentation scheme rather than just focusing on maybe hosting it in a web page, for example, which is fairly limited. And so we had a master's student who did a thesis on this. We haven't put it into production though. But definitely if you're interested in also folks about augmented reality, maybe we can have a little chat about that afterwards too.
Anyone else?
When I think about the technology that's coming, and especially with respect to what we think about in App Inventor and MIT is empowering people, and especially young people. The thing that is happening is the integration of basically everything in the physical world. So robots are some tiny specialized example of that, but think of basically everything in the physical world as something that you or other people can program to improve and deal with. Think of everything potentially as having actuators and sensors. I'd like to recommend a book that recently came out by Daniela Roos, who is the head of MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab and runs what's called the Distributed Robotics program there. The name of the book is The Heart and the Chip. And the message there is that robotic is anything in the physical world that can interact with something that's defined computationally. And one of the wonderful things that she talks about in that is, how do you think about that in terms of changing people's personal experience? And the book actually begins with her in Romania thinking about the things that she would have liked as a middle school student and imagining what's going on. And one of the wonderful things she says, she always imagined she could program her sneakers so that she could run faster by changing the springiness in the soles. And there's this wonderful story in the book about how she imagined this as a middle school student in Romania, and now she's running the MIT Personal Robotics group, which is actually making these things. So again, think of when you talk about programming, don't think about these mechanical clunky things called robots that run around the room. Think about that everything you interact with. Think about your sneakers. Think about what do you want to do to program your clothes so they become better designed that you can do and be more comfortable. These are things that we can talk about, but are really, really in sight. There are probably 5 startup companies who are already doing this stuff. And the question I have for all of us, if you think about a world like that, what does empowerment of young people actually mean? The possibilities we've been working with so far, where you do something with a browser or a phone or something, are just incredibly conservative compared to what really is coming down the pike. It's not waiting for us to develop it. That's really, really happening. But what we need to do is take our imaginations and turn that into, what does that actually mean about what young people can do? So that's what I think about when I think about the future of App Inventor.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
I was going to say sort of briefly, kind of on the other end, from getting big to getting small. Particularly in underserved communities, we have people who are using App Inventor entirely on their phones, and that's an incredibly challenging thing to take on. And but often that is the mobile device that they have access to. We want to make it easier to use App Inventor on phones, and that's a big project that we're still working on. But it's something that's in our vision and on the horizon.
Fantastic. So App Inventor, as Evan mentioned in his presentation, has over 1 million users a month and growing rapidly. So it must have significant customer support needs. How do you deal with that? You must have a whole customer support department staffed with dozens of customer support representatives, right?
Yes, we have ChatGPT 1, ChatGPT 2. We actually have a team of what we call the power users, and they are the folks who really help App Inventor run, in the sense that if they weren't there answering people's questions, we would be too busy to do anything else. We're able to come here today and talk about the work we're doing because they're out there helping answer questions. And maybe some of you could be power users, I don't know. You certainly all are capable and probably have the chops to do so and have built really amazing apps. I mean, even today, just some of the apps I've heard about from people coming up and talking to me, like, yes, you could be a power user. You know a lot about App Inventor. And so that they're kind of the real cohort that kind of helps answer a lot of App Inventor questions. Definitely check out the App Inventor community. That's another amazing resource for you, and you'll find the power users there. And also, we know our friends in the Cool Thing program are developing these communities of practice for teachers to help one another and learn and share resources. And so that becomes another way for people to get support around App Inventor. But in terms of App Inventor support at the front line, this is it. We're all here. I was saying to somebody earlier, no work is being done on App Inventor because we're all going to be sitting up on stage. And that's true. So we're an incredibly small team running an incredibly big project. And I was saying too to somebody yesterday, we have about 1.2, 1.3 million users a month and 4 dev team members. And so we're each responsible for about 300,000 people and making sure App Inventor works for them.
So how many of you folks who use App Inventor have either posted questions or answers to the App Inventor community forum? Okay. So I strongly encourage you to do so, right? It's a real way to gain information and help your users, help other App Inventor users, and it's a real way to sort of learn more about the platform and to help your community. So.
Oh, and just to add to that too, I've seen some really fascinating apps on the community as well. So if you're looking for app ideas, people have some really fantastic things there too.
Yeah. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Since there are a lot of educators here at this summit, I'm wondering what you folks on the panel, especially the ones who are interacting closely with educators, think that educators need or want from App Inventor that it doesn't currently provide? And are there any plans to do any development or support in those areas? Any thoughts about that? Any thoughts from you guys about what App Inventor could use to help you in your educational missions?
The question is misdirected. No, but one thing, I will say one thing though. So we have had the fortune of being supported by Amazon Future Engineers for a while, and Tom, who spoke this morning, was a part of that effort. And we developed an interface for programming Amazon Alexa, and as part of that started working, particularly Jeff, on a teacher interface for sort of managing student accounts. And we know that this is something, especially when it comes to things like PII and things and stuff like that, that is a real issue because we obviously don't want to be storing student data. And certainly the Alexa team was very worried about storing student data. And so thinking about kind of classroom management tools and how teachers can manage working with students in App Inventor. And I think this is also going to be particularly important when it comes to some of the iOS stuff we talked about earlier and publishing, because Apple's rules and processes around publishing apps is quite complicated. And so for that to be managed by the teacher at the classroom level rather than having every individual student go through that process, I think will kind of streamline some of these publishing issues as well.
Anybody else? Okay.
We have a question.
Real-time collaboration.
The question was about real-time collaboration.
If you ask me very nicely, when I do the Aptly demo, I can show you that in Aptly, the AI is just a real-time collaborator in another system that we don't publish.
Jeff?
I have a question. There are a lot of hands that went up when you said how many people would like to be in the future an App Inventor user. Can you please tell us where they should go and what they should do first?
Well, the first thing I would definitely say is if you went back to yesterday and you got to go to the panel that Selim did, we did an intro thing, but there's going to be an intro to AI event this afternoon that Selim is running, where we're going to be doing some of the teachable machine style work. And so you will get to build hands-on an AI app, or a handful of AI. We're doing chatbot and chatbot and ImageBot. So you can go this afternoon and get hands-on experience with App Inventor right away. You should also check out our website, appinventor.mit.edu. I know it's hard to remember, but there's a whole section for teachers, how to get started, equipment recommendations, and things like that. There are a lot of different ways to use App Inventor in your classroom, and we try to be very flexible because we know that a lot of school environments are set up differently. And then again, certainly the community is a great opportunity to ask questions, and often I'm in there as well trying to help and get people set up. So we do have a lot of resources, and definitely check out the website. It's got a lot of tutorials. I also we plug Day of AI a couple of times, so if you're interested in teaching AI in your classroom, and that is another great resource as well.
Robert?
And a lot of people learn from videos easiest. So our YouTube channel, App Inventor, check it out. It has some great way to on-ramp and then examples of apps that you can try just right through the video.
Great.
And just a nudge, since we were mentioning websites and resources, if you need a nudge to join the community, that's community.appinventor.mit.edu. Very hard to remember.
Did I see a question back there? There's a microphone right coming your way.
From a curriculum standpoint, I think it would be really interesting for you to do some work in aligning content standards with how teachers can more effectively pair what the content they're teaching in their classroom with how they can be using this. I know a lot of teachers will say, well, I'm just not techie. And so they need that more explicit alignment to be able to realize how they can make this a reality in their classroom and bring it forth to their administrators and say, hey, this is worth spending time on. And I know where I'm at, a lot of people just don't have the background to be able to make that connection for themselves. Like when we talk about generative AI use, we're still on, it's okay to use it to write an email. Building an app is something way outside of their imagination. And so I think helping build that bridge to get them from, I'm not a techie person, to, yeah, I want to empower my students, but first we've got to be able to empower our teachers and help them to see those connections.
That's a great idea. We should put standards alignment tables with the tutorials. A lot of times in the Day of AI materials, we mention NGSS, and sometimes teachers have trouble hitting the practices of how do I start an investigation and what tools do I use. So we could even make that even more explicit.
I think we had a question there, and then we'll come over here.
This summit has been amazing, and more than a question, it's a thought or a suggestion that I just thought based on the questions here. This summit is amazing, but this is only where many people can come maybe once a year. So how about if we can think of some regional, local networking events or gathering of educators, or even maybe once a month virtual sessions, if not by the team here, at least by the power users, where they can log in people and can have a scheduled event they can go to and get hand-holding to begin with. Just a thought.
Yeah. I'll just mention, and it's not directly what you were saying, but it's related and might help in creating those local communities, is that we do have an educator part of our community site. And if educators were interested, they could, interact there and maybe help set up some of these local things and do some self-organizing in addition to whatever organizing we might be able to do. Yeah. Or the App Inventor Foundation, because we also are getting into sort of regional hackathons, and maybe we could associate regional get-togethers of educators. That's an excellent idea.
And at least in the United States too, there's the Computer Science Teachers Association, and so you may have like a regional. I know there's one for Massachusetts. I think there might even be two for Massachusetts. But there are regional groups of computer science teachers, and you may be able to engage with them both on App Inventor or Scratch or any of the other softwares that you've seen today.
Okay, and I think we had a question here.
Thank you. We have been working with innovative schools from the United States, Finland, Israel, China, and Australia, Canada in the past 12 years. And we have been getting to the age that to have students' learning outcome from K to, let's say, 12. Okay, let's start. K to 12 learning outcome for all the subjects becoming valuable assets that students, their family, teacher, school, they have the ownership of that learning outcomes. Have you ever thought about that? And if you have, then what have you done? If you haven't, then how could you support that? This is also related with that question of assessment, with the because we've been talking about for students, there's one project We call it authentic learning projects. They does one work, but that work can be assessed by different subject standards, and not only by the different states from United States, but also from other countries. So students, they just need to do one work, then the feedback comes from multiple states and nations to that. Thank you.
I don't know, if, Robert, you maybe want to take on that a little bit, but I could also speak to it.
Well, we're always trying to find out ways where teachers can slot in App Inventor projects where students can feel ownership. And that's one of the ways that I think our constructionism background feeds into that, and we always want to kind of enhance that. So to have the student be able to assess their own work and have ownership of it and have a long-term project is a dream for us. And we always want to figure out how some traditional classrooms can allow that to happen, because teachers are under incredible pressure to fit in all of the requirements throughout the year. Can they sustain a long-term project from the investigation, from the research, all the way through to creating something that the kid can say, "This is mine," and I created it with a small team. Is that? Oh.
The ownership I'm talking about is kind of Web3 based. So let's say even just now you mentioned a long-term project, but actually let's say for kindergarten students, elementary kids, their projects can be very short. And also for music class, that can be an outcome from their music class and from their art class, from their science class. Those outcomes, it's their learning outcomes. How those can be valuable assets belongs to the students, and also is part of the family efforts possible, and also teachers have some kind of share ownership, and school, they have share ownership. So that kind of learning outcome is valuable assets. That's the innovative schools we have been working on, that we get to that age, we need infrastructure support for that. So Web3 definitely need to be there, and maybe you have other tech solutions for this.
Maybe we could, since this seems like it's a big back and forth here, maybe we can do this offline. You could talk to Robert later. And so we can.
Yeah, we'd love to collaborate. So let's.
Yes.
Wonderful.
We have questions here. Sorry.
Let's not do this collaboration right here. We can do that a little bit later. We have some people here. First, I want to ask, how are we on time, Rupa?
You have 2 minutes, and then we.
Okay, we'll have 2 more questions. I think we already had 2 reserved. Sorry, you can come up and ask your question later. Sorry about that.
Hello, is this working? Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the panel here. It's my first time attending the conference, and it's really, really exciting. So actually, I'd like to ask a question where, is there anything in the pipeline, especially for the gallery? Because as a tutor, as teachers, we often encounter really, really amazing students who are able to create really good projects. And back in our country, in Singapore, we even have talent-based admissions for coding for like middle school, high school, and college. So, for Scratch, we do have embedding Scratch studios, and students are able to actually publish their polished projects really nicely. And, for App Inventor, we do have the gallery, but compared to a Scratch, embedding inside like a Wix website, it is really like a bit underwhelming when we have to put like a link and a button and then tell them to go to the actual project. So I'd like to check, is there anything else that's in the pipeline in terms of like sharing and publishing for these students? Because I think they deserve the opportunity to showcase their work everywhere. Yeah, thank you.
Who wants to talk about the gallery?
I'll answer that simply as, find me later.
But it's also worth pointing out that a way students can publish their work is that, unlike in Scratch, a product of an App Inventor project is an actual app. And so, they could either make the APK available for sideloading, or they could publish to the Play Store. That has a little bit of an extra lift to it. And of course, we're trying to make the iOS version available as well. And so that, the hope would be that if you've built, an app, just like everyone here who has built an app, that you would be able to make that final product available, right? So the embedding of the Scratch project is the publication of the Scratch project, right? But the publication of an App Inventor project really eventually becomes the app itself. And disconnect. Oh, okay. No, so that I think is the thing we need to figure out how to make work the best. Yeah.
Okay, we have one more question.
Yeah, I'd like to start.
Oh, hold, Jeff, you had one. Keep it short.
So, keep it short. Now I got to think of my. So, in App Inventor, you write your app and you can either connect to the companion and see how the app works, and to share it, you can create an APK or an IPA on the iOS side and put it in the store. But that's a fairly heavyweight thing to do. The question is, and I'm not expecting an answer right now, but I want to think about is there may be a middle ground. What if we had what I would call a player app, which might be part of the companion, where students could share their work by creating a QR code, not having to put it in a store and not have to share a big binary, that someone using the player could scan and then see their app and use their app. Because that's something we could do, but I'm curious as to what the level of interest in that is.
Yeah, if you're interested in that,
all right, show
come
of
up and
hands.
talk to Jeff. Oh yeah, show of hands, that's good too. Okay.
I think people need to think about it.
I would like to second on the same question that's just come from there. So the question is, I was asking even as well in the morning. So how does one share an APK? Because the current process of sharing an APK via iOS store or a Play Store is such a running hoops, right? So I think the solution that you're offering makes great sense about having some kind of a player wherein we can share an app. That's my question. I think the answer would be a great.
Great. All right. Please thank the panel. And thank you all for your questions. It took you a while to warm up, but it was great.